Since going back to his much-loved persona, the man they call the megastar has captured the hearts, minds, and ears of fans all across the world via his intrinsic promos and usage of the English lexicon. With an undeniable amount of Kavorka, he has pulled at the interest of the wrestling world, so that for at least right now, all eyes are on him. However, despite his incredible reactions and merch sales and everything else, something has been noticeably absent from the waist of LA Knight. That, of course, being a championship, or any real accolade that doesn't have a brand deal sponsorship or a commercial attached to it. So that's got me thinking, what happened? How, after all this time, is this guy still without a championship? Have we failed LA Knight? That is the question, ladies and gentlemen, and today we're going to dive into the main roster career of LA Knight to try to explain what's wrong and what needs to happen so this error is amended. This video is going to be a little different. It is basically going to be my stream of consciousness where I basically just talk about everything LA Knight's done and criticize the booking of it since showing up on the main roster. That said, if you go on to enjoy the video, it would help me out immeasurably if you consider leaving a like on it, as well as subscribe for more content like this here in the future. Right, so let's first look at the arrival of LA Knight on the main roster, and by the arrival of LA Knight, I actually mean Max Dupri. This character, on paper with the maximum male models, could have absolutely been a fine undercard comedy gimmick. But those of us who watched a man with a similar face on Black and Gold NXT, as well as another man by the name of Eli Drake in Impact Wrestling, knew that this was not the road for a man of the caliber of Shawn Ricker. Instead, we knew that if given a microphone, this man could do things with the English lexicon that few of his contemporaries could ever even compare to. We knew that if the WWE reverted the man they call the megastar to his former glory as that they would absolutely be printing money. And so, on October 7th, he shed that shell of a gimmick known as Max Dupri and was once again embracing his persona as the megastar LA Knight. This change was absolutely welcomed by fans, and even massive fan accounts would pop up on social media like Yeah Revolution on Twitter, who credited Knight with being a large reason why they care so deeply for modern wrestling. This rise in popularity got him involved with the legendary Bray Wyatt, in something that culminated in Knight's first really high-profile feud on the main roster. Sure, it did lead to that awful Mountain Dew Pitch Black match, but nonetheless it gave him the opportunity to mix it up with one of WWE's biggest stars. However, following this, Knight would then go on to lose for months on end. But even still, his popularity kept growing. This was simply by proxy of his solid in-ring work, as well as his captivating promos, which inevitably led to him silently being turned into more of a tweener slash babyface headed into the summer of 2023. The London, England crowd in particular gave a raucous reception to Knight as he made his entrance for Money in the Bank. During said match, he would be the final man to lay his hands on the briefcase, eliciting yet another incredible reaction from the crowd before Damian Priest sent Knight south of heaven and claimed the briefcase for himself. To me personally, this was the coming out party for the megastar. This performance and reception from the crowd in particular is something I often think back to watching live on my laptop for my retail job. And the reason I watched it live for my retail job is because I was so behind Knight winning the briefcase and ultimately guaranteeing himself a championship run at some point or another. It felt inevitable that Knight would be crowned as champion some way or another, and his next opportunity would come during the United States Championship Invitational Fatal 4-Way against Sheamus, Rey Mysterio, and Cameron Grimes. He would prove unsuccessful there, but at least he was involved in the scene, right? Right? Anyways, despite this, he would of course go on to enter and win the Slim Jim Battle Royal, which he won by last eliminating Sheamus, marking his first win on a pay-per-view event. This, as you probably know, didn't exactly mean anything in the grand scheme of things though, aside from it essentially making Knight the WWE representative for Slim Jim in a similar way to what Randy Savage was in the 90s, except his commercials also featured Bianca Belair. But this is the right track though, winning on pay-per-views, mixing up in the US title scene, these are just stepping stones to greatness, and his next opponent would be The Miz. In all fairness to Miz, he is absolutely a phenomenal performer and has produced some incredible segments and promos in his time with the WWE. However, when this feud happened, he was very much occupying the Dolph Ziggler role at this point. And what I mean by that is that Dolph, for a very long stretch between the mid-2010s to the early 2020s, was kind of the gatekeeper for new guys on the main roster. And while in this case Knight was around for quite a while, it still kind of felt like The Miz here was more of a rite of passage than a feud people were excited to see. However, once again, despite the lack of general interest going into this feud by many fans, these guys actually cooked up a really solid program complete with stellar promos. My personal favorite one being where Knight paid homage to the recently departed Bray Wyatt while also grilling The Miz. Truly, this promo is one of those times where wrestling hits me in such a deep way while also still remaining true to its art. And yeah, the pair had a pretty good feud which culminated in a match at Payback, which was special guest refereed by John Cena. Knight would pick up the win and Cena would raise his hand, putting over Knight. However, he and The Miz would also then have a rematch 2 weeks later on SmackDown, which Knight of course won again, but by this point the weekly responses to Knight were reaching higher and higher heights. People were genuinely so unbelievably excited to see this guy whenever he'd come out. Surely this would mean that he would get a massive opportunity soon, right?
I do know someone who has.
Well, you reap what you sow, and what was sown here was unfortunately a foregone conclusion. Roman Reigns, the nigh unbeatable, undisputed WWE Universal Champion, who already essentially had a date for WrestleMania 40. However, first he would have to contend with the up-and-coming hot babyface of LA Knight. I hate to say predictable wrestling is bad because it isn't. It rewards you and I as fans for paying attention to and caring about the television being shown to us on a weekly basis. But man, this one was a little too predictable if I'm honest. You see, as always with Roman Reigns' title defenses in that era, it was simple. Babyface gets the upper hand, bloodline interference. Babyface gets the upper hand, bloodline interference. Babyface gets the upper hand, bloodline interference. Do not get me wrong, I adore that this displayed Knight on a similar, if not the same playing field to that of the tribal chief Roman Reigns. But by this point in Roman's reign, it was woefully obvious where the finish was going and no amount of suspending disbelief could have made me believe that Knight was walking out with the gold here, thus making this match ultimately rather empty for me. Sure, we got some great moments like Knight cutting off Roman's music or that crazy hard camera shot of Roman in the lenses of Knight's glasses, but ultimately I really can't help feeling that this was just very meh, all in all. So the next logical step from here was to do it all again in a fatal 4-way that also included Randy Orton and AJ Styles. Hooray! In fairness, this was bound to be yet another case of bloodline interference. However, because it was a fatal 4-way with seeming bad blood between AJ and Knight, we'll get back to this by the way, it was all in all a fairly fun affair. And yet again, while a predictable match, it was still nice to have Knight hovering around the title scene. You see, this is the issue I've been building to this whole entire video, and it's that there has almost never been a good time for Knight to be the guy walking out with the gold, and I say almost because there is one man he could and probably should have challenged.
I am the table.
Yep, Logan Paul. And to me at least, this feud felt like it has been on the burner since Money in the Bank. The promos in the lead up to Money in the Bank in particular felt like they were setting up a feud between the megastar and the social media megastar. But so far, that's led to literally nothing. The weird thing is it felt like there was a nearly perfect opportunity for Knight to challenge Paul at WrestleMania, but instead he was put into a feud with AJ Styles, which in fairness was rather fun and pretty good all in all, and ultimately did result in Knight getting a dub over the Phenomenal One on the grandest stage of them all, but I couldn't help but feel that this was still a step away from what Knight should be doing. And now here we are, post-Mania, and Knight is in the King of the Ring tournament. While the only two singles champions on SmackDown in Cody Rhodes and Logan Paul compete against one another in a winner-takes-all match for the US and WWE championships. Mind you, I don't actually think either guy is losing their championship here, but I really can't help feeling that this match could have happened after Logan lost the US title to Knight. The guy has come so far in his time on the main roster, but Knight showed up over a year and a half ago now. And look, I'm not saying titles mean everything, and contrary to that, I find that in almost every circumstance, the man makes the title, as seen with stars like Gunther in recent years. However, Knight remaining uncrowned as of now is somewhat worrying. As his popularity grew and he remained a top merchandise seller for months on end, it felt like the investment in Knight came from us and not the guys in charge. And as it stands right now, it's hard to not feel like we're being let down. So as for the title of this video and the question I posed at the start here, I really don't think we failed Knight. Rather, I think the machine has been warming the guy up and waiting for the right moment. However, as the months have passed by, it's hard to not feel like they're missing the easy opportunity in front of them. Give us Logan versus Knight at Money in the Bank or SummerSlam for that US title, and finally crown the megastar as a champion. But those are just my thoughts. What do you think? Should Knight be the guy to beat Logan? Is there another title he should chase down and capture instead? Let me know in the comments down below. And hey ho, while you're headed down that way, it would help me out immeasurably if you consider leaving a like on the video, as well as subscribe if you're new around here. All that said, I'm gonna dip. As always, I hope you stay safe, and that was Dylightful.